tuning in, tryna find out how to win. Go along and tell a friend, marathon, you know the game. Keep on running, never end, getting better, make amend. Adam got it, Adam got it, Adam got it, Adam got it. Parrsitivity, 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 parrsitivity. Tune in.
Right, Lorena and Vic, it's a pleasure to have you on the Parrsitivity podcast. How you doing?
Very good, sir. It's been a bit of a hot minute, and we're back on to see you. Well,
Yeah,
I'm back on to see you. This is Lorena's first time. Sorry.
yeah,
Yes, my first time. Thank you for having me. Definitely, it's a pleasure to be included in today's conversation, wherever it leads us. Vic said he's doing good. I would say, yes, I'm doing good, but at the same time, I'm like, life feels a little wonky right now. There are some waves and some storms kind of brewing, but overall, just feeling blessed to be here and see what we can do with this time and space.
yeah. Oh, awesome. No, it's a pleasure to have you on the Parrsitivity podcast the first time, and it's great to meet you. And really happy that Vic's introduced you, to be on the podcast. And before we kind of, got recording, you was talking about, some things in mind, what's going on at the minute. And I think, we're all in corporate jobs and life is always in motion. And I think, you have to kind of deal with the waves and navigate the waves and, do your best to get things done. And I think, as you said before we start recording, it's trying to manage all those different things, isn't it, at once sometimes and trying to, do your best. And did you want to start, Lorena, go into where you're at with things?
Sure, I can definitely start. You might have to stop me and kind of give me the
That's
timeouts.
okay.
As I get super passionate, I might take over the floor here. But yeah, I mean, again, we are professionals, and the audience is always a mix of professionals and people that are just dealing with life and need some support, need some advice. So I guess from my perspective, I can always show up as the professional and the human. Whether I'm doing training or one-on-one engagements with people, I always say that I will not talk about things that I personally don't engage with or personally I don't find my way through because I feel it's not genuine enough. So, yeah, as we got on this call, we were talking about like life's hitting us hard. And, I'm going through something personally right now. And at the same time, I'm also having to show up as a professional and still keep up with my responsibilities. Not that I couldn't have delayed this call, for example, or something that, can be postponed or, managed differently. But most days we still want to do our best. So I think the question starts with like, what's our best and how do we build it? How do we build our resilience for those moments when crisis hits unexpected? And it builds, right? Like maybe one thing happens and two things. And for me, it's like two, three things built up in literally 24 hours. And I'm like, okay, my nervous system's starting to panic. And it's like, what's going on? How are you going to handle this? You can't handle this. And it's coming back to that inner world that I've built to words to say, no, I can handle this. Let's see what resources I have inside me. Can I do this? How am I going to show up? How am I going to manage this? So that's kind of where I'm at and why the theme came to mind as we were hopping on the call.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, I noticed when you and I just talked a bit about this before Adam got on. It's as a professional, some days it's very hard, and I have been asked in the past, how do you do it? If you have a death in the family, if you have something that tragically happens, how do you still stay in that mindset that I'm a professional, the team needs me? And a lot of it is mindset. It's, having that strong mindset. I have years and years, like over 40 years in martial arts. So it does build a strong mind, but let's face it, we're human beings. Even if you have a strong mind, you can still break very easily. But yeah, it is a mindset, and this to me I think is a really good topic. How do people show up when excuse the expression, shit is happening? Because it happens to the best of us. What do you think, Adam?
I think it's a great topic, and I think when you work in corporate, especially, there's sometimes a lot of demand, a lot of pressures, and maybe deadlines, and you might be having to show up for a client, for example. And I think from my experience, I kind of mentally tell myself I can only do what I can do. And in my field of work, I work in the UK for local government helping, homeless people. And a lot of the time, I don't get the outcomes all the time for the client group we work with because, there's a lot of complexities. So I kind of have to tell myself I can only do what I can do, within my role and do my best.
Yeah.
So then I kind of don't kind of over ponder or stress myself out. But I mean, that doesn't always happen. But I mean, do a lot of stress sometimes. And I think if there's personal stresses as well as work, I find trying to find something that tries to keep you grounded or communicating, I think might help. Maybe if people communicate with their colleagues or people above, or if they don't, that can maybe leak into personal life. But I think communication is a big thing that can help. But yeah, like Vic said, trying to do something, whether that's reading or working out or martial arts, can sometimes be a good outlet. But I think we can all have moments where we do break and we just need some time out to breathe.
Mm. It's interesting listening to the two of you, and I kind of picked up on some themes here. So, if I'll have your permission to kind of just go bluntly and into what I'm thinking, because you're talking, Vic, about your experience with martial arts, and I can hear the masculinity coming through is like, we're strong, we know what we're doing, we have a strong mind, and you went straight for the mindset, which is beautiful. I am all about mindset, and my work actually started with a lot of mental fitness training, and personally, I needed to get in control of my own mind. And I think that's very important. And Adam, you mentioned, exercising and knowing your routines and kind of sticking with them to get you through those pieces. But then you said something important. It's about communication. Like, do we actually know how to express? Because we have our inner resources, right? In terms of, work out, sleep well, try to eat nutritiously, get some sunlight, do all those things. Perhaps we have our social life to some degree, but a lot of times we almost like reach this place where we don't want anybody to see our weakness, quote unquote. Because vulnerability is still unfortunately seen by many people as weakness, like especially in the male environment, male dominated spaces. I see this strong mindset. I cannot crack, I cannot break. I am the one that holds it all together. And the reality is, no, your inner world is in need of attention. And that's okay. It just signals that you're human. So as you were both talking, my mind went, but what about your feelings? What about your emotions? Are you
Yes.
feeling them? Like, are you actually giving it some space? And in that communication piece, are you truly expressing those feelings? Because there's a lot of fear in that self-expression, with yourself included. Don't even think about talking to others, right? Whether it's a partner or a family member or a coworker, we're not acknowledging it to ourselves so many times, right? And that
Correct.
suppression comes in.
Yes.
I'm not sure how this lands with the two of you, but that's kind of where my mind went as I was listening. So, Vic, I'll pass it to you to see if you have some thoughts there.
Actually, you make some really good points, Lorena, and I really appreciate that because as men, that's why the suicide rate is so heavy with men because honestly, it is considered weakness if we cried. It's considered weakness
Yeah.
if we get teary-eyed when our cat dies. It's, but at the end of the day, we're still human beings and being in touch with your feelings. I've honestly struggled with this for years.
Mm.
And I had a young lady that worked with me on my feelings, and that's probably the only time I cried in probably 15 years. And honestly,
Wow.
at the end of it, I didn't feel weak. I actually felt liberated. Now,
Yeah.
Do I make a point of crying all the time? No. It's still a weakness. No. No, but it's trying to get in touch with your feelings is so much more complex than building just a mindset and being tough, right?
Yeah.
Being able to look at yourself and know that I am vulnerable, I am hurting, that honestly is a huge true power. And that goes right into why a lot of us professionals can show up the next day after a traumatic experience and keep the team alive like nothing happened. You know, a large part of that is us suppressing it, but with years of experience and knowledge, and a lot of people have gotten to positions much higher by being able to recognize their own weaknesses and dealing with it on other avenues and not letting their actual employees and their team members see that. So a lot of, trust me, my employees have said to me many times, like, I'm strong. I'm strong. But trust me, when I walk away from them and they say that, I'm like, yeah, I don't feel strong. I just don't. But it's that acceptance of the feelings and that deep dive. And that's, you know, you touched on some really cool stuff there, Lorena. Adam.
Yeah, no, I agree. I echo, what you just said. I think it's really, really great stuff what you said, Lorena, and that communication with yourself. And I think being a male, I think there's that, especially being British, it's like, keep calm, carry on, keep, just crack on. And I think that's, for some people, it's quite drilled into them. Do you know what I mean? Just crack on, mate. Just carry on. And I used to hear that a lot when I used to work in like hospitality and like restaurants, and you were stressed and burnt out and exhausted and tired, and chefs would be like, just crack on, mate. Just keep going, keep crack on. And you think, and you do, but you're panicking and you're anxious and you're strained inside. Do you know what I mean? And I think as a guy, it's especially since I've got a bit older, it's like, just keep going. But sometimes that isn't healthy. And I think it's communicating with yourself and recognizing when it's okay, maybe if you do need to like process stuff, do you know what I mean? Or get upset and things like that. And I'm kind of probably going through that at the minute, like personally, because I've broke up with my partner after 4.5 years. I just bought a new house, first house, she's moved in, and it's kind of gone sideways. And I'm still been working, still going to work, showing up to work, doing my job and doing the best that I possibly can. But I've had to listen to myself and think, what do I need right now? Am I going to just sit at home and just not go out and, do you know what I mean? Stay in that funk. So I, joined a new gym and I've got back into, I think, like kickboxing and stuff. That's helped me, I think, process things and emotions, and then I can show up and do my job, because I feel like if I don't do these little things to myself, I can't be my best self for the people I'm working with. So I think that's what helps me. Everyone's different, but yeah, I think listening to yourself and how you communicate things and go about them is key. And I think, try not to get to the point where you're burnt out and absolutely exhausted, because that, is that costs a lot of time and money for, I guess, corporate businesses as well.
Yeah, that's critical. That's critical. Yeah.
I mean, Adam, thank you for sharing so vulnerably what you're going through, because I think it's so powerful to relate to someone's story. And there's so many hearts being broken out there, right? Relationship, whether they are moving into that separation, whether they're past it and still healing, or in the middle of turmoil. I think it's a constant in our world. Many people hide that. So, the bravery of, yes, I'm working through that, I'm processing that, and here's what worked. It's appreciated. Again, I think those physical aspects of moving on with my life, staying in the gym and getting my body in shape and making sure that I get back out there, I do my work, I stay focused. I think those are all helpful steps. But coming back to what you said, it's like, did I listen to myself, right? That's the deeper processing of what's really going on. because it's easy to go into action mode outwardly towards those activities that are still very helpful and needed. But then looking back at, have I sat enough with that difficult emotion, with whatever that fear, that trigger was through the experience? Because Vic said earlier, right? Like it was so hard and maybe a very limited experience with self-expression with tears. And, you
Yes.
know, I work with a lot of men, but I constantly say this in those private moments when, you know, tears show up in a therapeutic session or even in my private life, right? When, you know, someone that I'm close with has a disclosure moment and tears start to kind of show up in their eyes, I can see the reservation. But you said, Vic, it felt so liberating to just allow yourself that moment. And tears are simply emotions being processed through the body, through those somatics. And I'm like, for me, you know, I may be a little nerdy here, but it's the most precious gift someone can offer me if in a session or in a private moment with a partner or a friend that the tears show up. It means that I was able to nurture and hold a safe space for them to do so, right? And for them to feel that freedom and to be allowed that freedom, it's beautiful. So, you know, coming back to listening to yourself, we have such a complex inner world, right? And the fears are going to be very loud and very easy to hear when they scream at us, you know, like leave this relationship or, you know, this is not working out versus what am I truly feeling underneath of all of that? Maybe I don't want this relationship to end. Maybe I'm afraid because, you know, I'm loving too hard and all of a sudden this person is going to find out something about me and leave me, right? So those vulnerabilities start to surface, but the fears are so much louder because we're not listening deeply enough. And that's when tears show up, in my opinion, is when we touch at those levels where we haven't gone in a very long time or we're afraid to ever go. So yeah, like the processing, the suppression, it's needed. We need regulation, right? We don't want to walk around crying all the time. But when something happens that justifies those tears or justifies that emotion to be expressed or those fears to be heard, it's like, yeah, let's just sit there. It may feel a little down, it may feel on that negative spiral, but being able to build that capacity to sit there and to have the right people that can sit with you in that space is huge, huge. Yeah, I'm curious if this feels in any way relatable to your experience, Vic, right? Because you said you've had it with someone in the past.
Yes, yes. Well, when I first went through the process, I just knew I had a mental block. Like
Mm.
I just I couldn't go, kind of to the next level. And then a friend of mine said, "Oh, she had another friend, and get a hold of this person." And at first, it was very uncomfortable. She's like, "Well, I want to know your childhood and upbringing," and I'm like, "Well, that's not very life coachy of you, right?" It's like, and then as she started prying, we started seeing some things that still to this day kind of bother me about my upbringing, and as we went through the process later on, it's and she kept saying, and at first I thought it was weird because she's like, "It's okay to cry," and I'm like, who is this lady, right? Like, what? She wants me to cry, right? And I tell you, after probably about a month of her and I meeting for about a week, I broke down. I broke down, and afterwards, I'm like, wow, I feel good. So it's but
Oops.
I guess you could say there's not a lot in life that really, really agitates me or gets me to that point. But now I know as a man, it's not weakness if you break. Somebody would rather me break and call them than deal with um, any other harsh decisions that some men have made, right? But are you okay, Adam?
Yeah, I plugged out I stepped on the plug and it took my light out, so I went black for like 2 seconds. So then I had to turn on the light. I'm listening.
Yes.
Just like what happens in life, right? All of a sudden there's light around you, and before you know it, darkness comes
Yeah.
in, but it's
Yeah.
temporary, right?
Yeah. It
Good.
sure is. But it's just like you were saying with, that going into that and being comfortable communicating, isn't it? Your emotions outwards and stuff, and getting used to that is quite powerful. And I think that can shift a lot that's going on in people, can't it? And their energy and how they are as a person. And I think, do you think that translates to like work, and you can then understand people a bit more and empathize with them and recognize that? So do you think it works hand in hand?
Yes. If
Absolutely.
you learn how to communicate with yourself, and like I said, I struggled with this, I was always the manly man. I did karate, I rode fast motorcycles, still do. Um, I just I I worked out like crazy, I was the man's man. But there's a point where you just gotta, you gotta bring it back a bit. And the more you communicate with yourself, you actually start discovering things and you get a little bit more empathetic. So now when an employee comes to you and says like, I have an issue at home, the old Vic would be like, oh, well, don't worry about home, work is home, right? That's what I would have said 10 years ago. Now it's like, oh, tell me about the issue. How can I help? As your boss, what can I do to help you? Do you need help? Do you need HR? And so now I do communicate so much better with my employees, and they appreciate that. And you always hear about that open door policy in corporate. Now that open door policy is actually true, because if somebody really needs me, they're my team. This is our team. And yes, there's rules and there's guidelines and there's certain things that if somebody comes to me with a certain personal problem, I may say, well, let's go to HR with that, right? But you just gotta know with your professionalism what to do. And I do find with inner communication, it's going to create outward communication.
I absolutely love how you're calling it and defining this inward communication and outward communication. Um, you know, you said something earlier that kind of stuck with me. Like you said, I broke down. And then you had that wow moment. And what came to mind for me was you needed to break down so that you can be built back together, bigger and better, and more ready to lead at a different level, right? Like that to me is evolution, like learning how to have that inner communication with yourself. And in my therapeutic approach, and even in my coaching approach, I always bring any psychological tools that I can possibly do so ethically, right? I use internal family system. It's an approach where we work with different parts of ourselves, right? We get to understand all those parts of ourselves that are showing up in different moments and trying to ask for attention. And like whether it's a fear, whether it's a childhood trauma, something that it's kind of interfering, and just holding space for that, getting to know what's really the need there, what's the underlying fear, can we support it from that place of inner self. And you're seeing it in your work with your employees, right? Like once you've done that inner work for yourself and you get to understand yourself better, absolutely will translate. That's what I call human sustainability every day, right? In terms of like bringing that humanity back to the workplace, knowing that if I'm a better leader, I can sustain my team differently, right? As much as we believe in AI and automation and all those things, amazing tools, but people are still around us. We need to support them and invest in them, because isn't that our purpose in life? To support each other, to connect with each other, to build a world of humanity. Otherwise, would be just machines ourselves working 24/7, which we kind of start to become a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
really good points. It's been making me think about when I used to work in one hospitality place in a hotel, and I remember I was kind of feeling burnt out, and there was a lot of chaos. A lot of chefs were fired. There was a lot of change of management, um, and we had people on agency, like agency staff being hired, and they just came in from all over the country. You didn't know who they was or where they were from, and you didn't know whether to get too attached because they might leave or get fired in a week, or be fired in 2 weeks. And you're trying to like manage the expectations of the business, deliver a good service to the customers, communicate effectively, try and balance, things out, because hospitality is a bit crazy at times and the hours are a bit crazy, and it can be quite stressful. So I remember going to a manager one time because I was burnt out and I was, not in a good place. And I remember going to knock on the door to speak to them about how I was feeling. And I remember them saying, on a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, how important is it? And I was kind of like, oh, I kind of felt under pressure. I was like, it wasn't very empathic to how I was
Mm.
feeling. And I said, oh, maybe like, I think I downplayed it, and oh, maybe like a 7 or an 8, but it was like a 10. And she's like, oh, I'll talk to you soon. I don't think she even like talked to me in the end, or wasn't really understanding. So I kind of felt like I was drowning. But I think if you understand as what what you guys are saying, understand that communication and the empathy, you can then get more out of your team and your colleagues and people in a business and in life in general. If you kind of, just give them 5, 10 minutes just to like hear them out.
Yeah. Holding that safe space for someone is so precious. And I think that's why, the business of coaching and therapy and all of these things are needed out there, because we kind of forgot the skill. Like when you're thinking of private, intimate relationships between partners, or, like parents and children, the workplace, obviously, we're talking about, like, we forgot the skill how to connect human to human and how to hold that space to go into those spaces of, like, yeah, like, you're not just your skill sets technically that we need on this job. You're also a person that has ups and downs in life that are going to interfere with the job. And, I think Vic used the word manly men. I think it was you that said, like, you become this manly man that, does all the things right and shows up. And there is that piece attached with masculinity, the provider, like, I need to get this right. I'm the one that everybody relies on. But at the same time, again, you're human. You have emotions. So if you don't process those, like, they will get stuck somewhere and they'll show up. And why do we have a lot of suicidality with men, as you said, like, why there's so much rage? I mean, mind you, women have it too. Like, we're not separating here. Like, the experiences are everywhere, but it's more typical, right? In terms of, like, that rage coming out because of that suppressed emotion. So I think the precious gift these days that I find is finding those people, whether it's friends, partners, or professionals, where you can just be yourself 100%. Know that you're
Mhm.
accepted, know that you belong, that nobody's judging you, that you're allowed to feel, you're allowed to be weak or to have moments of vulnerability. Like, as Vic and I talked offline before we got on here, I'm like, yes, I am a therapist. Yes, I know all these skills, but I do get hit too, right?
Mhm.
I had tears before walking onto this call just a couple of hours before because of some news I received. And I was like, do I cancel? Or do I take some time, process with my emotions, get ready, work through it? And that's how the idea came of talking about the realities of life, because of, like, it's happening as we're talking. But then I will give those emotions more time later tonight. They may need more space tomorrow, right? So it doesn't make me weak. It simply makes me understand that I have the inner resource in the moment to shift as I need to for this space, for example. I'm not going to be weak tonight when I call my friend at maybe 11 o'clock and say, hey, I need some space to process this. Or tomorrow morning when I'm going to try and make an appointment maybe for my own therapy or something like that. Like, it's simply knowing who is there for me in my circle, right? That can hold that space. And I can just be me and not judge, like, well, Lorena, you should know better because you're teaching people this, you're helping people with this. Well, yeah, but I'm human too and I need it just as much, right? Like, that to me is strength. And that makes me a woman's woman. And that makes a man's man because they are not afraid to acknowledge those spaces and just go for the help they need wherever they can get it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
As you
Actually,
can tell, I get fired up there a little bit too much.
it's actually funny. Um, because what you do for a living, Lorena, I remember this is going back probably 15 years, you know, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but basically a top psychiatrist in Southwestern Ontario was employing me to do some painting because I used to paint on the side, paint houses. And I remember she was preparing for a huge like speaking event. And then I came in to paint and she followed me around the house while I was painting, telling me, basically saying her speech to me. And then afterwards, I was upstairs and I went downstairs and she was sitting on the couch crying. And I'm like, and because at the time, 15 years ago, I'm thinking, you're a psychiatrist. You fix people. Why are you crying? Right?
Yeah.
Now you fast forward 15 years later, more experiences. I've done some studying. I've gone to therapy myself. You know, now I actually understand that she needed somebody, right? But
Yeah.
back then, and that's some of the arrogance as human beings, you know, if you see somebody, you think a police officer is going to fix this, you know, a lawyer is going to, no, like they're human beings too. Like just because you're a therapist, psychiatrist, police officer, firefighter, stuff happens. People break, we go on different paths, right? But it's how we pick the ball up, how we stay organized. One thing I just want to shout out there, Lorena, you did a little post the other day about being out in the forest, and I am a huge fan of forest bathing. When I feel stressed, honestly, I like to go walk the trails, and you know, just deep breath in, deep breath out, just stare at the trees, and I've even hugged trees. You know, they don't really talk back, they don't hug back, but God, it feels good to be out there. And that's an outlet for me to deal with some stresses, you know. And of course, after you're out working out, yeah, you go to the gym, you get a good sweat on and you know, you can think a little bit clearer. But I do love forest bathing. The Japanese have been doing that for so many years, and it's so effective actually.
There's definitely a lot of research and you know, more work that is being done between that connection in nature and well-being and mental health currently. I'm fascinated with somatics. It's another approach that I engage in my therapeutic modalities because, as you said, working out, what we put in our body, the nutrition, right, that we feed our brain and our nervous system, how we interact with our environment, right? Do we sit in cement blocks and, you know, rubber shoes all day long, or do we take our feet to the grass and just walk around and hug trees and touch plants? Like there is such a big connection between nature, between how we interact with our body, how we hold emotion in our body, even how we sit. Like think about it. We're constantly on these chairs in front of computers or with our phones, like, you know, crunched over. You know, this position brings sadness. It brings all these lower valence emotions that, like, no wonder that we kind of stay stuck in them because we forget how to open up, how to become vibrant. But yeah, having those physical aspects to kind of reconnect, whether it's nature, working out, I love to dance. I mean, you've probably seen some of my crazy video dancing as well in the streets or places. That's my somatic expression. That's my go-to. Because whether I am stressed, whether I'm crying, whether I'm super joyful, if I play a song, my body wants to move, right? And it's not about perfect dance moves, you know, and yeah, sure, I'd like to get better in certain aspects, but it's about releasing that emotion through movement and just releasing all those chemicals and needs that refreshing and you know, your brain is going to thank you and your constant mood is going to be like, hey, thank you for that. If you get attuned to yourself, you know when you're missing the gym, you know when you're eating too much sugar, you know when you need sunlight. It's very, very important for all of us, for sure.
Yes, yes.
And they're really great points. And I think, like you said, like going into nature and putting yourself in certain environments is a big, you know, important thing, and that can really shift how you feel. And I think it made me think about, you know, just walking my dogs, you know, and it kind of brings you into the moment, doesn't it? When you go into nature or you do those things, you focus on that one thing. And I sometimes feel like with driving, I don't know what it is. If I put a certain song on or certain music and I'm driving, I kind of feel like that helps me to relax. Sometimes I know I'm sitting, but or especially I think, if you get up that bit earlier and you see like little things that you don't normally see during the
Mhm.
daytime, I kind of find that quite um makes me feel quite good. If you see like the birds at the first thing in the morning, or like or the sunrise, get up early. I get up early enough, and people doing certain jobs that you don't usually see, during the daytime, like the bin men, like doing things, and little tiny, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, Adam, now that I'm getting older, like honestly, I don't remember when I was younger and I actually sat there and watched the sunset. And
Mm.
now my favorite thing to do in spring, summer, and fall is get on my motorcycle and just before dark, and then I go down a back country road and I'll just pull over, lean against my bike, and actually watch the sunset, you know? And it's just like, ah, look at that, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
everybody's got different outlets, Some people they'll play marbles. Maybe some people like video games, whatever, but it's finding those outlets and making it work and putting it into your daily habits. That way, when you have that inner voice, that trigger that says, "Hey," as Lorena pointed out, "Hey, I missed the gym today." You've got your checks and balances for your own health and wellness. If you didn't have that, you'd be running very erratic. You'd be making a lot of crazy decisions and stressing everybody out around you. And then obviously nobody likes you. And then that adds more anxiety. And it compounds to the point where you break. But it's better if you have those checks and balances. It's critical.
Mm.
You're both talking about literally being mindful and present with yourself and kind of take in one moment at a time. That's what I'm hearing. And
Yeah.
obviously, like it could look at different things, different way. Like I love sunsets and sunrises. And like you, Vic, I think it was through COVID when I started to pay attention to that. Because before it was like the go, go, go mindset. And then I found myself in the middle of an afternoon as the sun was going down, just sitting in front of the window and doing this. Like just had taking in the moment because we weren't going anywhere. We were stuck out inside it, but it was the only way to just like take in a little bit more of that beauty and nurturing those awe moments. I mean, sure, video games can give some relief, but I'm a big believer that coming back to the basics where, as you said, Adam, like walking your dog, hearing the birds chirping, like hugging the tree, watching those sunsets, sitting holding hands with someone that you care about or having a cuddle or a hug. Like those are moments that like you can soak in. We can apply it to eating. Like how many times do we just like shove something in our mouths? We're doing something else, we're driving. I think it's a matter of stopping and pausing enough to just feel whatever's there in that moment. Take the beauty, take the joy, maybe take the sadness, whatever's showing up, and just have that beautiful deep breath that, yes, I'm here. I'm here with it all. Yeah.
Excellent. I
I don't
love
know
it.
that I find myself stopping for more and more now, and it's something that I teach a lot in workshops and training because we we take our breath for granted and we take these, I don't know, 2 seconds, 20-second moments for granted that if we did more of them, they compound and they have a big, big influence on our overall, way of being at work or at home. Rather than, I have a meeting, rush to the next one, don't even get a break to go to the bathroom and forget notes, forget actually reflecting on the meeting. No, I have something else going on. Drive the kids somewhere, forget dinner because we don't have time. Let's grab some fries on the way. Like there's just so much. I want to do it all. And this, like, I don't want to miss anything. And we forget to just stop and recognize the beauty. And I don't need to
Correct.
do anything. I just need to be in this moment, whatever this moment is, whoever is it with. Maybe there's some, friction. Maybe there are some fears surfacing, and even sitting with that. Let's do it. Let's hold some
Mm.
space for it. That's
I,
where
got-
life
I
happens.
I got a bit of a funny scenario actually from what you're saying, like stop and basically smell the coffee, smell the flowers. But
Yeah.
I met up last year with some of my friends that I was in the reserves with, basically the part-time military. And I went to a really nice, well, Lorena, you probably know Chop, our steakhouse here in London.
Mm.
I love that place. I swear I own shares in it, but so I took my old military buddies there, and they're like, "Well, what's good on the menu?" And I said, "Oh, try this, try this. Oh, this is to die for." So then they ordered, my meal came, and I'm just casually eating the prime rib, going, "Oh God." And then I just happened to look over, and they were done. It was like,
Mm.
and I'm like, "Did you even taste it?" Yeah, it seemed to be okay. And I'm like, "Seemed, this is great." And I'm just like taking in the moment, having a nice culinary event, and they're just like, they're military. They're just like, "Oh,"
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, slow down, enjoy it. But yeah, that's my story. That's all I got.
I
That's
think we
funny.
get desensitized, like what I'm hearing, and that's what happens with everything we do these days on this like fast pace, lifestyle, even when it is activities that you think would enjoy, like going out with friends or doing things, we get desensitized to slowness, to taking our time and just, letting our senses come alive, right? Like you say, taste, smell, feel, touch. We become like, no, it's all about how much can we cram into our day, even if it is fun things, how much can we like check the box around our schedules.
It's
Yeah,
autopilot. It's autopilot.
yeah, it is.
Everybody's on autopilot. They're no longer intentional. So
Mm-hmm.
you do what your neighbors are doing, you do what your colleagues are doing. If they go to a movie, you go to the same movie.
Yeah.
It's just autopilot. But then you've got to break free and become intentional and say, "I intend to do this today. I decide I'm gonna take dance lessons out of the blue. I want to play a guitar." No, not me though. I'm not a good musician. So, but yeah, it's autopilot. It's a lot of our society is in just autopilot. We exist to exist. It's just there, right?
Mm.
I think that's a really good point, and it's making me think about quite a lot of different scenarios. I think about when I went on holiday a few months ago. I went to Spain, and I quite like to not go on my phone if I go for a meal, or if I'm on holiday, I try and make a thing where I don't go on it during the meal. I'm in the moment, I'm enjoying what's going on, and the surroundings or who you're with. And I was trying to stress to who I was with, to let's just, chill, not go on a phone, enjoy, take it all in, enjoy the food. And there was a couple across from us, and they were like glued to their phones, and they weren't even talking. And I was like looking around, like, yeah, but look at where, yeah, I mean, look around, look at where you are. Like, you can go on there anytime. Just sit. I think it's good for your mental health and your well-being to try and do that, take in what's going on, especially, around food and the flavors and the senses and stuff. But like Vic was saying, people are quite, say, desensitized or like, not quite fully in the moment and checking the phone, blah, 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 blah. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of different things going on, but try and draw it back a bit. And I experienced that last week. I pushed myself to go to they had a Nigerian food festival thing,
Mm.
um, an hour from where I live. So I drove there. I didn't know anyone. I went by myself, which I've not done anything like this in a long time. So I felt quite nervous. I felt quite vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? I felt quite scared.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Going into somewhere by myself. But once I sat down and started talking to people and the food came out, I was a bit more relaxed. But like you said, with the flavors, this food I'd never tried before, it's like some spark went off inside me, tasting this food, and then you know we was all doing the same thing, and it just felt like something shifted in me, being a part of that, if that makes sense.
yes, yes.
Mm.
Now,
I-
Lorena,
You're on
Yeah.
mute, Vic. You've muted.
No,
Or
no,
was it,
no,
or was it me? By the way, it might be
he
me. One
wasn't.
sec. One sec.
Am I muted, Lorena?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
No, it's my end. Sorry. So what did you say?
You were gonna say something big there.
Poor Adam's having every technical issue
Oh,
today.
I know. Headphones, lights.
Yeah. No,
It's
Lorena,
late for
where
him.
have you traveled
Yeah.
to? Just give me a quick rundown. Where have you traveled to?
Ooh, I have the map right behind me. I could bring it up and tell you. I've probably been to about 30 countries by now. I am a little bit of a traveler, obsessed person. I have probably another 30 destinations on my to-do list. I just recently came back from Patagonia.
Yeah.
I was in New Zealand, Australia in the last couple of years, Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Eswatini, a little bit down there. I've done a lot of Asia. I've done Thailand, Vietnam, Japan, China,
Ooh,
Cambodia. I'm trying to remember. I've been to the Emirates. I've been to Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Italy, Greece, Iceland. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting some countries. France. I've
now,
done a
was
lot.
it
I,
was it
I
for work?
Sorry?
Was it for work or just enjoyment?
No, 99.9. All of this was for enjoyment. I got a taste of it. It is something that truly lights me up. It cleanses my spirit. It gives me so much growth, so much joy. As Adam said, to like just go and experience different cultures, different foods, different people, the landscapes, whether it's nature or city. I get immersed in it. So yeah, I really, really love doing this for myself. So it is a priority in life at this moment, to kind of do as much as I can. I have a few trips that I'm hoping to kind of do in the next year. I don't know if I will ever stop. I mean, age, finances, obviously, different elements may come in place, but I keep telling myself, no, I want to experience as much as I can in this human body, because I think it gives us another level of growth through these type of experiences that we are not, we're not otherwise getting.
Yeah.
I think going back to what you said, that intentionality, right? And Adam, I am that person that once in a while you're gonna catch with their phone because that's how I take pictures. And
Yeah.
anybody who travels with me kind of knows Lorena's taking a lot of pictures. But I created a system, right? So I'll take the pictures, and I am in the pictures for whatever reason. I love being in those pictures. But then I soak in, like I make an intention to stop and just savor the moment and take in the landscape and feel the grass or the trees, or like in Patagonia, it's freaking freezing. I took my shoes off. Like as many places as I could, I took my shoes off, my socks off, and I just wanted to like feel even that crispness of the air under my feet. I did not get into glacier water with my feet. That I did not have the courage to do. But other than that, it was just again, you're feeling with that part of the world. So I hope I get to continue to do this. But thanks for asking about that because, yeah, it is a huge passion of mine and
Yes,
I love
I
doing it.
can see how passionate you are about traveling. I've traveled a lot of places, but pretty much mostly in North America or South
Mm.
America. I have done New Zealand and Australia and Okinawa, but other than that, that's about it. I think there's only two or three states that I haven't been to in the US, but
Mm.
but when I see some of your pictures and stuff, I'm like, what the heck? Where's she now?
I will admit, and I forgot about South America. I've done Peru, Argentina, Brazil down there too, and of course some of the states in the US. Um, I I have a strategy. I don't always post pictures live because I don't believe in that. Like I said, like I will take the pictures, but I'm not like, okay, I'll go on Instagram now and just put everything on my stories, which I just started Instagram recently, actually. But I like to kind of go back to those pictures, right? And then I'll reminisce, right? Reminiscing is another beautiful tool we can go into our toolbox for well-being and strengthening our inner landscape because we live these experiences, and if we're having that savoring capacity to be intentional in the moment and soak it in, that's one way to take in the positive. I also use reminiscing when I go back to these pictures. it's like transporting myself back in there, right? I'm back on that mountain, I'm back on that valley, I'm back within, whatever situation I'm in, feeling the feelings. So I tap into the goodness once more. And then somehow, and this is my creative brain coming online, I get a spark of idea to talk about something psychologically related that may connect to either what I'm feeling in the moment, what I'm going through, and how it connects to maybe something that I'm working in my psychology space. Or maybe it's just something that like that place inspired in the moment. So yeah, they're probably sometimes out of order. I try to kind of label where I am and what I'm doing, but it's not like, I've been to this place and this place and this place all at the same time. It's like over
Yeah.
time, and I spaced it out. But it's me reminiscing literally and just that moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful tool in our toolbox.
I was actually pretty jealous when Adam went to Spain and when
Mm.
sharing pictures and stuff. I'm like, oh, why couldn't I come with you?
I know.
Yeah,
Let's do a
Spain,
podcast in Spain, Adam.
Yeah,
Spain
we
is
can do it
definitely
next
up.
time. I I think Vic's usually the guy I call when I'm drunk on holiday. I think last time I think I called you last time, and then I definitely called you when I was in Barcelona that time. I
Yeah.
was pre
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
was pretty drunk. That was quite fun. But it's I think it's important, isn't it, to travel if you can. Um, experience different things outside our like norm.
Mhm.
Even for me, like driving an hour to do that um, Nigerian food festival thing, just to experience something different out of my ordinary routine. And I think, do you think like the more you do these little tiny things, you get more confident doing it, and it becomes a bit more easier to do? Because I mean, for me, I've not done anything like that for
Mm.
quite some time, and I felt good doing it. So I've never traveled abroad by myself or anything like that, but it kind of makes me, think about things like that. Is what you said, what you do.
I love that question because I think it's such a powerful question, not just about travel or, like experiences. It's about trying anything that scares you, really. So we can use the travel context or, doing new things, new experiences. It's something that your nervous system's not used to. So of course, the fear of, what if I go alone at this restaurant and, people think I'm awkward and they wonder, oh, poor you, what are you doing here alone? Or you're traveling alone, they're like, oh, what if this happens and I get sick and I don't know what to do with myself and there's nobody there to take care of me. Like I've had those thoughts because I do travel alone a lot. But at the same time, it's the inner world too. It's like, hey, like I am afraid to get into a new relationship because, what if they leave me? What if the same old pattern comes back up? Anything, a new job, right? Like, oh, I need to learn all this new system. They're not gonna like me. Maybe they think I faked the interview and I'm not as good. That imposter syndrome shows up. I think by challenging, and actually I was talking to a friend yesterday exactly about this theme of show up, keep showing up, keep sitting with those uncomfortable moments. And before you know it, your nervous system adjusts to it and recognizes, wait a second, this is not a threat. This is actually exciting. This is actually good. And as you said it, once you've done it, you went to that festival and you came back and it's like, whoa, that was awesome. Because now you're empowered. Now you've proved yourself like, okay, this was not a threat at all. This was actually quite good. Right. And you're still going to feel a certain level of nervousness next time you do something new, which again, it's your inner world just saying, hey, be careful, watch out, something bad could happen. But once you get over it, right? And obviously, we want to be intellectual individuals that think ahead of threats and problems that could arise and prepare for them. But we can't cover every scenario. We can't wait for perfection and, like everything aligned to get that perfect vacation, to get that perfect relationship, to get that perfect job. It's simply about living moment by moment, staying with that fear, giving it space, making the necessary preparations through it, and then guess what? Stepping in that exact thing that challenges you. And I've been doing that now for about 6 years, I'd say very intentionally challenging a lot of fears. Funny enough, I've been challenged to a big fear actually just in the last week, which I've like my head went in overdrive over it, and I still have not been able to say a full yes. I was about to today until I got some news, and then I was like, oh, is this a signal that I shouldn't be doing this? So yeah, now I'm like, I think this conversation is almost the motivator to say, Lorena, no, go do what you're talking about, challenge that damn fear and see what happens on the other side. Because it's probably the exact thing that I actually need to do if I recognize it in myself. So yeah, I don't know, Vic, if you have the same perspective on that in terms of new
Oh,
experiences.
yeah, yeah. When I was younger in the martial arts world, I got pegged as a natural leader, which was great, but it was very hard for me because, when I was a younger karate guy, it was all about, strength and might. And but there was one thing that I would sweat, I would feel faint if my karate master down in Oak Grove, Missouri, if he asked me to stand up and say a speech in front of like 50, 60 people, I would go and hide behind trees. I was just
Mm.
I was deathly afraid. I tell you, I would go out on the battleground and annihilate the enemy but I tell you, if I actually had to talk in front of people, I was just my knees were shaking. And I remember Kaicho, my master, he said, I'll get you through this. I said, oh, okay. And then after we had lunch, he assembled there must have been 150, 200 people. And he called me up to the front of the class and he's like, oh, Vixon is going to talk about this. And I'm like, what? It's like, you just threw me under the bus. But I knew almost every karate camp I went to, training camp, he would ask me. So then I started mentally preparing myself, and I'm like, okay, you're a big, strong guy. Don't be embarrassed. Just do it. Your ears and your face are gonna go red, and that was another fear that I had to get over because now I'm talking, but I can just feel I'm embarrassed. And when you see their ears glowing red and their faces going flush, it's like, oh, that guy's embarrassed, right? So then I started getting really, but then the speeches became more natural because I started to embrace it.
Mhm.
And of course, you didn't want to cross the master. And if he said, go do it, you would figure out a way. And then it got to the point where literally I can stand up in front of my employees. It's just talking to people. It doesn't bother me. You could throw me in a football stadium and I'll talk everybody's ear off. But it was that little push that helped me get
Mhm.
over a fear. But if you can get over those fears, you can conquer anything, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a curiosity for the two of you, though, because I noticed something lately with my own fears and perhaps with fears that other people are displaying in different spaces. You know, we have these visions for ourselves, right? Let's say business success and seeing things, bloom and progress, or, personal goals of family relationships and experiences that we all crave to have. And we're all kind of like hoping for it and we desire it deeply and we want it. But then I've noticed these fears of, but what if I actually succeed? Can I actually contain it? Can I actually keep up with it? Am I good enough to hold the success? Same with relationships. Like, well, what if I actually find that person? Like, can I love them? Can they love me? Like, is this gonna work? I notice these fears surfacing and like we're standing in our own way in some shape or form. And I can speak from experience with my business aspects, right? Like I've been kind of putting almost like these brakes on. And I recently realized I'm like, but this is what I actually want. Why am I doing it?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's something again that it's new to me, a new observation I've made with myself and with those around me. And I'm like, I want to stay in this space and try and understand these fears and how they work to almost work against us. I don't know if either one of you has noticed or experienced anything like this.
Adam, be talking with the mic off.
Yep.
You're on mute.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's because I pressed my microphone on it. Yeah, it reminded me of the process of buying my first house and
Mm.
making that leap because I saved up money for a deposit, and then understanding, what mortgages and how it works, just petrified me. And I just, yeah, it kind of boggles my head how mortgage works now. But it just made me feel really overwhelmed. Do you know what I mean? Making that step and then looking for houses and then trying to find the right thing and then trying to understand how it all works. And yeah, I just found it very daunting and it just scared the crap out of me, the entire process. And
Mhm.
luckily, my cousin was my mortgage broker, so he explained a lot, which really helped. But I feel like if he wasn't really there and some people that I know, I'd have felt, I might not have done it, because I just, I don't know why I panic so much. I think it's because you just take a massive leap into the unknown and it costs a lot of money, certain aspects. So
Mhm.
I think I was probably thinking too far ahead into the future. And now I've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit like, oh, it's cool now. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, I found that really scary. And I think like relationships, as you said, and thinking, am I good enough? And what do I want next? Do you know what I mean? Or I think, yeah, I think the unknown is quite scary. I find for what I'm learning. Going into situations of feeling vulnerable, I quite like to feel confident and like I've got my shit together, so to speak.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have to go through that uncomfortability and vulnerability to get, to the next stage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one thing like uh what you mentioned, Lorena, like when something like this happens, you're like, wait a second, I wanted this, right? And this is something that I always tell like a lot of my karate students and a lot of my mentees, because I do a lot of volunteer work. Um, I always tell them everybody talks about fight or flight, right?
Mhm.
If something happens, are you going to run away or are you going to fight? But to me, there's actually three. There's fight, flight, or freeze.
Yes.
And freeze is something you got to do. If something all of a sudden is starting to scare you, don't run away from it and don't necessarily charge into it because that also may be the wrong. But freeze, and then go back into self-talk. I wanted this. This is what I wanted. So now we'll go into fight. Let's fight for it, right? Or
Mm.
you can freeze and just take a moment, decompress, and afterwards say, this really isn't what I signed up for. I'll go that way, right? But that's the thing. Too many people think, go this way or go that way. Best thing to do is just freeze. In other words, take a breath. As
Yeah.
a therapist and life coach and stuff, what do you tell a lot of people? Just breathe. Just breathe. And just
There is some
consciously breathe.
context. There is some context to the breathing, but I like how you took, these principles that we typically use as like, okay, this is your threat response, fight, flight, freeze mode. And you given it a completely new role, a new perspective of, when you feel these fears, freeze, but freeze with awareness, right?
Yes.
Like take that pause, take that moment to consider instead of making a decision out of that fear, recognize like, hey, this is really the thing I want. Yes, there is uncertainty, but I don't want to think ahead, I don't know, a year or 5 years or 10 years ahead. I'm feeling it. I'm thinking it moment by moment, letting it unfold. And then, as you said, do I fight for it? Do I really want this? Do I go into that in a good way, obviously? Or do I flee, as in maybe I need to depart from this space because really it's not what I need right now? So I really love that reframe, right? And coming back to take a moment and just let things unfold. Like, don't make decisions from that place of panic and uncertainty because it comes back to like, what do you really want?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if we, I don't know, if we come down, if I were to simplify it, it's like we all want to love and be loved. We all want to feel connected, to feel that we belong in this world, that we matter. We all want
Mhm.
to contribute with our gifts and our purpose in life, in our skills, in our work, in our communities. And we all want to have joyful experiences, right? To live this life in this body in the most beautiful way we can enjoy it and have part in it. So if we are a little bit more cautious with our choices and a little bit more intentional with those choices, I think we can do it. I mean, I feel that I've been doing it much better in the last few years since I've been doing this inner work myself, right? That life feels way more beautiful than if it's on that autopilot you were mentioning earlier or in the threat mode, right? Of I don't know what I want. I don't know if I want to do this, even though I actually really, really want to do it. Like Adam, I'm glad you went forward, right? And challenged that fear and got that house. And no matter what happens next, right? Like life's still unfolding moment by moment.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Adam,
definitely.
when he was buying his house, he pretty much kept me in the loop the entire way, and I was actually pretty proud that he made the leap, and
Mm.
it's a cool little pad. I like it.
We're all
No,
coming
thank
down to
you.
visit. I haven't
Hey,
been to the
What a
can
UK.
visit.
can I have a house party?
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
thank you guys. Oh, thank you, Vin. Yeah, it's a lot of shifts, isn't it? And I think when you when you go through that process or like something that's in the unknown, you come out the other side of it and you kind of think, well, I get that now. I feel you get that confidence from going pushing yourself through that, don't you? And I think that from what I'm learning is you can apply that to I think like anything. Sometimes you have to go through that uncomfortability and come through that unknown to get the outcome you want, but you ultimately grow, I think, as a person throughout that process. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
there's difficult things that sometimes we experience or going through. And, until we come out, we look backwards, if that makes sense, and connect the dots. You can kind of see how you've grown or how you've shifted or, and what you've learned. But it's only until afterwards, I think, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, I actually made a post about this just recently on how a lot of the biggest things in my life came from mistakes or quote unquote what I would have called mistakes at the time, or maybe society calls mistakes. But I think we need to have that reframe that if we do make a choice and we go down a path, and yes, there may still be fear, there may still be uncertainty, many times we stop ourselves because, like, I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to make the wrong choice, right? Like, what if I can't come back from this? But as you said, Adam, like, we're growing, we're expanding through that, right? So our brain becomes more rich because of that, maybe heaviness that came with that choice that we've made. The lessons we learn along the way, that growth and strength we experience psychologically, physically, whatever the case is, and then inspiration. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone through something and I was like, oh, like I should have known better. I should have done different. But it's that exact same thing that gave me the inspiration to do certain things. Like the fact that I'm sitting here talking to the two of you about these things is coming out of a very big traumatic past that, destroyed a marriage and destroyed a lot of things in its way. But I am the person that I am today because of those mistakes, because of those things that have happened, because they put me on this path of learning, of growth, of thirst for better, evolution, call it whatever you want to do, call it. But it's like allowing yourself to make mistakes and to know that even if you make a choice and you go down a path, you can always turn around, you can always change your direction. And if not, you're learning, you're growing, you're expanding into the best version of yourself if you believe that. If you believe
yeah,
that.
yeah, yes. I like that. Um, oh, I just had a total brain fart. Adam, take over, quick. No, I had
Yeah.
something off my head.
Oh, it happens to me all the time. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think it's everything for a reason, isn't it? And I find that when things happen, sometimes things happen, don't they? And we don't plan on it happening, or we don't think it through. And I think it's it's sometimes I find things are meant to happen, and everything is meant to be where it is, and that's what I've kind of like been telling myself. I think recently is whatever you're feeling or experiencing or going through, it's kind of meant to be. Do you know what I mean? Or everything is meant to be where it is. If that makes sense.
Hmm.
Just to
I,
accept
I,
that.
I, yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Adam, there because, you know, going through life, we have moments where it's like, am I in the right job? Am I in the right relationship? Am I in the right house, in the right city? Like all these questions. And I've been asking a lot of these questions myself, most recent, right? Like, am I on the right path? Could I be doing anything different or being anywhere different? But I love this mindset of we are exactly where we're meant to be in this very moment. The people that are in our life in this very moment, the jobs we're in, we're meant to contribute in that space, wherever we're bringing. Sometimes it's something big and very obvious, or maybe it's teaching us something big and obvious. And sometimes it's such a small part in the puzzle, but we don't see it, but it's there and it's needed, right? Like I've lost people in my life, and then I realized that I had to make room for new people, and they taught me so much. And then they left, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, like people come and go. It's okay to hold space for who's here right now and just allow that to develop in whichever way without like that restriction. Or obviously, we want to invest in relationships to keep people around the best we can. But same with jobs. Like, how many times, me included, didn't we stay in a job that literally sucked the life out of us? Because, you know, we didn't realize, like, yes, we're meant to be in a place, but we're also meant to recognize, is this for me in this moment? Am I learning? Am I growing? Right? So it's like this like balance of recognizing what I need, who am I evolving into, and have I evolved that space? Sometimes we evolve relationships, sometimes we evolve jobs. Sometimes we're meant to be in a place that doesn't feel as comfortable and it's not really what we hoped it would be, but there's still a purpose in being there for now. When you take life with that ease, I feel that we expand again our capacity to grow and that psychological richness that comes with it, that just again boosts us to that next level and prepares us for something even better.
Yeah. I think a lot of that goes into spirituality.
Mm,
You know, if you really, I've got a couple friends that I've done some podcasts with a couple of years ago, and they really get into the universe, right? And at the end of the day, you know, the universe chooses your path, you know, at some point in time. And the thing is everything's temporary. People come and go, like you pointed out. You can have an absolute best friend for 10 years, and then all of a sudden he or she gets a job in another province and you don't see them for 10 years, right?
yeah.
Um, but the spiritualism is the fact that they were there when you needed them, or they needed you. So your paths and everything crossed, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, the universe put them there for you to learn lessons, to be there for each other at certain points in life. And then when that task is complete, the universe says, okay, you move here, you move there, and another person for your next chapter is going to come in. And
Mm-hmm.
I do believe in that spirituality. When I was younger, you just, you know, I was raised in a Christian family, so it was, you know, God wants you to do this, right? But then later on, you put it into the religious aspect and the spiritual aspect, whether it be God or the universe or ET from the movie. You know, there's a reason that, for example, Lorena and Adam did a podcast with me today, right? There's a reason. And down the road, it'll be exposed, you know. Maybe we all become rock stars and we get everybody's autograph, who knows? But the spiritual aspect, it really weighs heavily on what you believe. And the more you believe it, and once again, self-talk, the more it becomes positive aspect in your life. What do they call that? Metaphysics, isn't it, Lorena? Where if you constantly are positive, 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 even if like you went to work and cut your hand off, you're like, this is positive, right? Now that probably wouldn't be positive for me. That would hurt. But if you're constantly thinking positive, positive things will always happen. And you know, I'm not deep into metaphysics and stuff like that, but I do understand what they're saying. If you lead a positive life, if you wake up with a smile, you know, go to bed with a smile, good things will happen. I get that. To me, it doesn't always happen that way, but you know, we still have to embrace the sorrow in life and the negativity in life, but how we embrace it is what's going to define us, right? If negativity makes you negative, then that's not helping. But if negativity gives you a lesson and puts you onto a different path, then potentially, that's a good thing. But yes.
The fact that you bring spirituality, it's quite interesting for me. Like, I definitely consider spirituality a strength of mine. I use faith in my therapeutic space. I am a Christian, so I do bring that angle if a client is interested, obviously, with respect and boundaries there. But I do believe in this, like, yeah, whatever comes our way, there is a purpose, there is a reason. What I'm challenged by sometimes, though, and even as you're talking about, negativity and positivity, it's like, are we present though? It goes back to that intentionality. Are we present enough to take that lesson and to accept? Because sometimes it's almost like we're doing everything in our possible way to interfere with that too, right? It's almost like God, life, whatever we believe in, like throws things at us, and we keep saying, nope, 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 I don't want to deal with this. But I notice this whole positive, negative vibrancy thing, because I don't think anybody can stay in the positive all the time. Like, that's not normal either, right? Like, we are humans, we're meant to have the range of experiences. The negative has as a purpose, right? Like, it narrows our attention, it's needed, it brings focus in. It's more a matter of, what do we hope for? What do we believe in? And how do we live life conducive towards that, and being present with the experience, coming back to that, right? It's like, then everything is unfolding as it's meant to for us, for our benefit, for our purpose, even when it is, using your analogy of a cut hand in the moment, right? Like, it may be hardship, it may be pain, there may be a crisis, it hurts, but we don't know what that's protecting us from. We don't know what that is going to expand us into next. Right? So it's I don't know why I keep coming back to this presence piece and knowing yourself of, like, is it my fear taking over, or am I just allowing this to unfold as it's meant to? Or am I standing in my own way, doing my own thing, thinking that I know better than God or the universe, or whoever's, in charge up there? You know, it, we're living in this metaphysical world. I'm not an expert there, but I'm curious to see if Adam has more insights into this aspect. I know we're getting into like very juicy stuff here, almost as we're getting to close.
Yeah, no, I love this sort of thing, this sort of topic. I always think about, like, the compound effect and the domino effect, the butterfly effect and stuff like that. And you know, people that come into our lives, and I believe, like, everything's for a reason. And, like, Vic was saying, sometimes people are in our lives a set period of time, and then they might leave, they might not have anything to do with us, or life happens. And I think I'm only 32, but I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and just thinking, everything's for a reason, whether that's long term, short term, and we learn things from experiences, whether that's good or bad. And I think it's up to us what we choose to do with that. Some people
Mm.
have negative experiences, or they might not want to learn the lessons. They might point it at the universe and say it's their fault. But you know, realistically, we have to take some accountability for what happens. And but yeah, I strongly believe that everything's for a reason, and whether things are good or bad, we take lessons from them. At least we should, and we can then apply that to the next thing, or we can apply it to the next relationship, the lessons from the previous one. We can learn the lessons, from the last job, maybe. Um, because I think life's like that, isn't it? In stages, isn't it? I think people today want things here and now. There's a process, and there's a learning curve in front of us.
Correct. Correct.
I
Well,
mean, like, life itself is an adventure, but what you're talking about is taking accountability. It's like freedom of choice. Right? We're given the choice in every moment to show up for ourselves, to not show up for ourselves, to show up for others, to not show up for others. And every life experience, every choice we make, right, impacts who we become. If we really want to get nerdy, maybe on a future podcast, we could try and talk about epigenetics, right? And how life experiences can change our genetic code and all of that stuff. Like, I believe in it highly because I know what my background is, I know where I come from, and I know that I'm the living example that that's possible because of who I am today, right? And I'm not, just my genes and just my, hereditary aspects. There is just so much more that the choices I've made along the way and how I'm engaging with life allows me to live a very different outcome. So yeah, it's absolutely powerful, I think, to think that way.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I want to be mindful of your time, Lorena. You set a time limit, and we're getting close to that time limit. So,
Yeah.
I know, this is juicy. I'd love to keep going, but we also want to create some fuzz here, and maybe the listeners will come back for more next time if we come back together.
oh
sure.
yeah. One thing, Adam, we should actually chance letting Lorena meet Greg.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that'd be good. That'd be good for the podcast. That we can introduce you to two human behavior experts who are ex-military. They have a really good podcast called the Human Behavior Podcast, and
Mm.
they're good friends of ours. So yeah, next time we'll have to reunite and introduce you to all the friends who are
And
great.
Greg will probably corrupt her.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. I'm open to
Yeah.
growth. I'm open to learning always and to be challenged, right?
Yeah. That'll be awesome. And where can people find your website, your in your tag in social media, Lorraine?
I am on LinkedIn with my name, Lorena Krasnai. I don't know if I have it on my screen, but I don't know if the podcast is going to show it. My website is humansustainability.ca, and I just started Instagram, so hopefully that picks up a little bit. I've been resistant. That's been one of my new challenges because LinkedIn was my home. But I think it's time that I learn new spaces. But yeah, anytime people want to reach out with more questions, thoughts, maybe some of the work that I do, again, it's a passion. I do it because I believe in it. I live it every day in my own life, and I just have this purpose in life to help others become their best self, best authentic self, and just author their life in a way that just brings meaning at work, at home, wherever they show up in their relationships. And as we talk today, first the relationship with yourself and then with others.
Mm,
Excellent, excellent.
good, awesome. And you're on LinkedIn and Instagram, Vic, and
Yes,
Facebook,
sir.
and well,
Yes,
yes.
sir. Yeah, yeah. The usual. Everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. No, it's been an absolute pleasure to connect with you both, and I really appreciate your time and energy and work, and I wish you all the best, and hope we can do this again soon.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Adam.
All right, you're welcome, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, yeah.